I'm Mike Stigwood from MAS Environmental, a company I set up in 1994, and I have about 45 years of experience dealing with statutory nuisances and abatement notices. In fact, I tend to specialise in abatement notices and the problems with those notices. I'm currently in lockdown in Australia and thought I'd use this opportunity just to discuss a few of the issues and introduce some courses I'm proposing, which will be run interactively over the internet so that people anywhere, any local authority can join in. In my experience and the research that I have done, the biggest problem in relation to statutory nuisance control relates to flawed notices, which can either trip up the local authority at an appeal or even the prosecution stage. The vast majority of abatement notices I have examined, including through the use of freedom of information powers, are seriously flawed, and I conclude most are invalid. That is, they're worthless pieces of paper. There is no obligation to appeal an invalid notice. It has no legality or ability to be enforced. If a local authority try to enforce it, that is an abuse of process. Having said there is no obligation to appeal an invalid notice, it is always wise to do so, and not to rely on invalidity alone, not least because the courts may not agree. However, the courts also expect you to raise issues by way of an appeal, and usually do not consider issues you have not appealed. Also, the process of addressing invalidity at a prosecution is not an easy one. As a means of addressing the problems where notices are wrongly formulated, my current aim is to expose the problems either through appeals or help officers who serve them on recipients, or help the recipients themselves understand the defects and their importance. This can be achieved by emailing me, head your email, abatement notices. You need to include a full copy of the notice that either you're drafting and proposing to serve or that you have received, and any covering letter with it. The covering letter is an important element. I'm also developing a training course focused on abatement notices and intend to run this online via 4 interactive 2-hour sessions spread over 4 weeks. My research indicates most notices served have defects, and potentially more than half of those served on industry are likely invalid. One major problem is reliance on standard forms that were developed long before current case law, and also the use of phrases without appreciating the consequences of many of those phrases. In appeal cases, local authorities often repeat the same mistakes, demonstrating their lack of understanding. Another major problem is some lawyers and consultants advise serving what is called a double-barreled notice. In these, the notice must set out what has to be done. These notices are recommended in what I consider as a mistaken belief this makes prosecution easier, when the works or steps required are not met in the time frame they give. This approach initially sounds attractive, but this type of notice is fraught with major difficulties. The argument in favour of double-barreled notices is that officers do not have to prove nuisance to prosecute, but that is generally untrue. I do not intend to go into that now, but there are good defences. These mean you will still have to prove as a local authority that there was or is continuing a nuisance, but you have additional points you are likely to have to address on top of that. Please do provide feedback and watch this space for more short videos on a range of subjects, including both noise, food safety, allergens and their proposed rules, drainage, and many more subjects. Thank you for listening.